Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the topic of how to use blog tours and podcasts in order to get some more publicity and things that you need as an author to get your message out there and to sell more books. Traci Sanders is a grandmother, podcaster. She is an educator and just has the heart of a teacher and has been doing some amazing things with her self-publishing group and also the podcast, which I really love, is called Rise Up Mamas. I'm so excited to welcome you, Traci, and thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy day. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your journey as an author and how you got into podcasting.
Absolutely. So, as you said, I do have a heart of an educator. Every single thing I've done in my life thus far has led me back to education no matter what. Even when I thought that I was doing, marketing and business type things and publishing, it still all came back to education because I very much enjoy helping other people excel and, progress in their careers even more so than my own. So I have neglected my own books, to be honest with you, over the years to be able to help other people edit their books and help them write their blurbs and help them market their books and things like that. Well, my first book came out in 2013. It was a potty training guide. And just to be very honest with you, I was green. I was an English major, of course. So I was the type of person, and most of you probably are as well, where people would send you their college papers or something to edit, right? Or to help them write this or write that, because you have that writing skill. But editing a fiction, like a novel, is completely different than editing a nonfiction book or a children's book. There are just so many different types of editing. And those were things that I had to learn in the process. So I was very blessed to join an online book club where I met some amazingly talented people, some editors that have traveled the world teaching classes about editing and things like that, programs, and just amazing writers and illustrators and different people. So I have always been the type of person that once I learn something, I feel selfish if I keep it to myself. So I'm not the end all and be all to marketing or self-publishing or anything. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I know everything, but I have learned a lot. And with every book that you publish, I think you all would agree that you do learn more with every single book that you publish. Children's books are not my forte, even though I can write them. I will go ahead and say I have not done well with publishing them because they are a whole other monster. My hat's off to you, ladies. I'm a lifetime learner. And I think that authors are special beings because we tend to have more capacity for imagination and thinking outside the box, and not just seeing everything in black and white. So I think that does help as well in business, in marketing, in all areas of our lives, really, even as parents.
So you started your podcast, Rise Up Mamas, how long ago?
That was January of this year.
Okay.
And that really started last summer in the middle of the pandemic when I had been having a horrible few months at home with my daughter doing online schooling. We've done online schooling for years, but I kept crying. I couldn't figure out why I was crying. Everything in the world was making me so sad and depressed. And, social media was just miserable. I didn't want to go on social media anymore because all I would see was about the children and all these horrible things. And I told my husband, I said, what's wrong with me? I mean, I'm usually an upbeat person, and this was just really starting to take a toll on me. I said, I'm crying for no reason. I think maybe it's perimenopause or something. I don't know what it is. He said, no, I think you have another book in you. And I said, you're out of your ever loving mind. I don't have a book in me. I haven't written a book in 3 years. I said, I don't even know what I would write about. And he said, Traci, you've spent all these years writing books for other people, about potty training and things like that. He said, why don't you finally write about your life and what you've done to get to this point in your life? So that's what I did. I wrote that book, Rise Up Mamas. And then later it turned into a podcast and turned into a Facebook group. And it's just all about helping, no offense, gentlemen, but all about helping moms step into their power as parents. And it especially came into play in the pandemic because all these moms were all of a sudden having to do online learning with their kids. And they were like, I can't do this. I can't handle this. I just want to drink all day and stuff like that. And I was seeing these things on social media. And I said, no, no, no. Somebody has to step in and let these moms know you got this. You can do hard things. And I just felt that book pour out of me. I really wrote it in a weekend and published it within 2 weeks. And I had some people in place to help me get that done so quickly, by the way. I've got these people. So it definitely helped. And then it became the podcast. So I said, some people don't read. Some people aren't aren't on social media to be in my Facebook group. So I want to reach these women wherever they are. If they're in their car, if they're at the park with their kids, and I said, well, I listen to podcasts all the time. So I know that some of them are on podcasts.
What tips do you have for authors who would like to get scheduled on podcasts like yours and really use that as a mechanism to reach their target audience?
The first thing I would say is most important is make sure you're looking into a podcast that is in alignment with your books and your brand. You've got children's books. You don't want to be on a podcast where women are talking about feminism and stuff like that, or where they're talking about baking or something. That's not the same thing. I actually am getting ready to start talking about my puppy on my podcast too, because it's all about being a fur mom. So anything about moms, things like that. I would have to think more about that, of what type of children's book it is, but it could be targeted to moms. Those types of podcasts are probably going to be your best ones. It could be anything education. So if you've got pre-K teachers, I know a lot of pre-K and elementary school teachers have started podcasts as well. They started doing that during the pandemic. Some daycare teachers, because I had a daycare in my home for 14 years. I know some of them started doing virtual daycare. So like 1 hour a day, they were going on there and reading a book to the kids to keep them entertained and keep them plugged in and learning and do some finger plays and things like that.
I've seen some podcasts out there like Women Over 50 Reinventing Themselves. That's perfect for me because that's what I did after 50 and becoming a children's book author and then becoming, a self-publishing coach. It's more than just thinking about your target audience, but what is it that is going on in your life could also be another side effect of maybe what you need to look for with podcasts. Should we also look at the, number of people that are following it? Like, do we even have that information to know how much publicity that the podcast could potentially bring us?
To be honest, I have not figured out how, because I listen to several other podcasts. I haven't figured out how to find out how many followers they have unless you go to their social media or something. So really, it's kind of like a fair playing field. So it's not like you go to Amazon and see, their podcast. You might see how many reviews they have, but really that's just a rating. Nobody's actually out there writing reviews for them on the podcast stations like Spotify and Apple and things like that. They're just rating it with a star. And that's the same thing you can do on Amazon with some books too. You don't have to actually review them. You can just rate them, right? And to me, that doesn't give me a whole lot of information. So I just judge it by, is it in alignment with what I'm looking for? Number one, you want to think about what value can you bring to that podcaster's audience? If someone, and they do all the time because they see I'm in marketing, I have this business and I think it would be great for your podcast, but I said, are you a mom? Do you have any value for moms? It's not just, oh yeah, well, I can help a mom start a home-based business. Well, a lot of people can do that, right? And I just think it's really important to let the podcaster know. To be honest, in my book blast program, I do have a request form to be able to send to bloggers and podcasters. So this is like an 8-week laid out program that tells you what to post on social media, what to be doing on the back end, getting your book ready, what you need to be focusing on week by week to be able to lead up to an 8-week launch. So that's what this is. So you want to research your podcasters and your bloggers, and you want to find out, are they in alignment? And then that's when you're able to say confidently, I have this value to offer your audience, because it's a two-way street. They want more reach for their blogs and their podcasts. Everybody does if you have a podcast or a blog. But they want to know also, is it in alignment with their brand and what can you bring to the table? But at the same time, they want to know, are you going to be promoting this as well? So they're going to be promoting it. You're going to be promoting it on your social channels. And it's a teamwork thing. So you want to make sure that you look for podcasters who are active on social media. That's really important. And you want to make sure that they are active. Like, honestly, the past 3 weeks, I have not been doing podcasts, even though I was rolling since the beginning of January, just because my life kind of stopped with the puppies and taking care of my granddaughter. But I have been posting on social media that I'm coming back, and I still post my other episodes to keep people in the loop, right? To let them know that I am coming back. Go check out my previous shows, because a lot of podcasters do seasons anyway. So, they'll do 3 or 4 months at a time, and then they'll take a break and they'll come back.
So research, make sure that they're aligned with your book, make sure they're active on social media, they're consistent, and make sure as you're pitching yourself that you can explain what value that you're going to bring to the podcast. Were there other tips about the research, and then try to figure out what value you can bring to the podcast?
You definitely want to book those podcast interviews leading up to your launch, even before your book is published. And you want to also schedule some after your book book is published. One thing I have found that authors, I don't say a mistake, I just say it's ineffective. I really never say it's a wrong thing to do. I always say it's effective or ineffective. And we all want effectiveness. So one thing that I've seen that they have done that's ineffective is they will just hit publish with their book and, oh, their friends and family have said, oh yeah, definitely, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy a copy. I'm going to go review it. And even if you've got them lined up and they were beta readers and everything, and they say they're going to review it, they are not always invested enough because it's WIIFM radio, right? What's in it for me radio.
Right.
And it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to write that review. Sure. I'm going to get to it. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. How many of you guys have experienced that? They have the best intentions, and then you start feeling like you're hounding them and you're feeling icky and salesy, and we don't want that either. So what you really want to do is get a launch team in place before you start, talking about your book and everything. You want to make sure that you have some dedicated people, and you're going to have to come out of the pocket a little bit with some prizes and giveaways other than just a free copy of your book, because you might think it's the best thing in the world, but they don't know that sometimes until they've experienced it. So again, it's what's in it for me. It's a process, right? It's a dedication. It's a commitment of them sharing your post each time and putting your name on their timeline. Because let's be honest, our timelines are like our houses. So we don't always want to invite everybody's vibe to our timeline. I'm very particular about whose things I share on my timeline, because I don't want anybody saying, oh, wait, are you writing books now? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to confuse your audience. It's very prestigious to be on somebody's timeline, honestly. And it's an honor for them to allow you to be able to guest blog, be on their blog, to be on their podcast, because it is a prestigious thing.
How can you ensure that you are being a good guest? What do you look for in a guest yourself when you're booking people for your podcast?
Okay. Number one thing, wear headphones. Headphones will help eliminate the background noise and things like that. It's going to make you come across clear. You want to make sure that you're in probably a small location, maybe like a closet or an office that's not echoey. You don't have hardwood floors. You don't have a fan going in the background. You don't have kids or puppies in the background. Honestly, I've interviewed many people and their dog is sitting right beside them. I'm like, I love dogs too, but it's going to not sound professional. So you want to sound as professional as possible. If you can get headphones with a mic, that's amazing. That's the best thing. Or you can buy a podcast mic. This thing is awesome. It's like $30. It's called the Blue Snowball. And it's great whether you're a podcaster or a guest. And it's great for Facebook Live. So, it's a good investment. Really is a good investment. I paid like $20, $30 for my headphones. So it's not like I spent thousands of dollars on this equipment, And if it's video, of course, you want to make sure you're presentable. You don't have to be perfect or anything. But another thing is, take your time in answering. It's like a dance. Okay. So like April, you'll ask me a question. I'll pause for a second, make sure you finished your question, and I'll think about what my answer is, and then I'll answer. Pause again and see if she has anything else to say or ask at that moment. And you just kind of lead each other into that dance. Most of the time, my podcast guests do not know what questions I'm going to ask them unless they request me to send them to them. I'm like, we're going to go by the seat of our pants. And, I've got some great questions and I know how to keep a conversation going. Right. So you want a podcaster that's going to do that, because you don't want to get on there. That's when I was asking you, April, do you have questions prepared for me? Or some podcasters are like, take it away. And you're like, okay, what do you want me to talk about? I've got so many things I can talk about. And like I said, it is a dance. So you kind of learn the more podcasts that you do. And yes, I do think it's important to let them know what topic we're going to be talking about. So just to give you an idea, just because my podcast is about moms, I've brought in women who have side businesses talking about gut health, talking about ADHD. So if you have books on these topics, that would be something of interest to me for my podcast. I met a lady who a few years ago, she wrote a book about autoimmune disease. Was it through a pet, actually? So that would have been a great book that I would have talked about on my podcast. I would have interviewed her. So anything like that. Don't think just because you have children's books that you're not going to be in alignment with all those podcasts just because they mostly talk about parenting stuff.
Right.
Okay? Because being a parent, you're going to read books to your children. Being a grandparent, you're going to read books to your children.
So part of your program helps people get booked on podcasts and also bloggers. You also focus on bloggers. So is there a different method or some tips that you would be able to share with us about how to get booked or find bloggers that are willing to collaborate?
Yes, because I think possibly you're going to find more podcasters on social media, and you're going to find more bloggers by Googling them, maybe. Or maybe you're finding Facebook groups that are talking about bloggers. Like I'm in a women's entrepreneur group. April, I think you're in that same group, Women Helping Women. And that is an amazing group if you're a woman. Sorry again, guys, but it's Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs. And they have all kinds of businesses in there and everything, but there are authors. I've grown my Facebook Facebook group from 0 to almost 500 in less than 2 months by women who are writing books from that group. So some of them are just getting started. Some of them are on their 15th or 20th book. And
Right.
so you can meet people where you are, but that's important to get into Facebook groups right away. Make sure that you are having conversations with people. You're going to find beta readers. You're going to find editors. You're going to find illustrators, author people to run things by, right? You're welcome to join my group if you want. So far, it's a very helpful group. I offer some training in there, but then I also offer opportunities, daily threads where you guys can ask one another questions and get feedback on your blurb or something like that. And it's all women again.
So when you're pitching to a blogger, whether you're in a Facebook group or whatever, how would you introduce the topic? Like, I have a book and I'm looking for podcasts. Give us a little bit of an insight into what works best for you.
Make it about them, because I'm also an Amazon reviewer, and I can't tell you how many times I've had, when people found out I had an author promotion service, I was getting probably 10, 15 requests a day asking, hey, will you review my book? And I said, that's not how it works. You let them know what's in it for them. So you say, hey, I have been checking out your podcast. I really loved the one about. You guys have got to take the time to do this research. And like April said, I've been checking out her podcast. I'm in her group. I've enjoyed learning more about her. She can be specific because she has been authentic in researching me, finding out more about me and making sure that I was in alignment with what she was in alignment with. And so that's what you want to do with people you want to guest post on blogs for and podcasts. And you want to make sure that you know their material. You need to say, hey, I love your blog. I particularly like that post. I mean, when you compliment someone, ladies, let's just be honest, right? You walk up to a woman who has great shoes and you're like, oh my gosh, I love those shoes. You have opened a doorway, because honestly, what you're doing is you're reconfirming to her that she made a good choice. And she doesn't always feel like she makes good choices in her life with her kids, with her job. She feels mom guilt all the time, things like that. Even if you don't have kids, as a woman, you just feel guilt in different areas of your life. So when you buy shoes, maybe she splurged on herself for $100 or $200 and spent that on her shoes. And you know what? Awesome. People are actually noticing it. It does matter. It does make a difference. I am worth these shoes. So everything is an emotional purchase. It really is. Anything that we do. So anybody who's out there pitching their podcast, it's an emotional thing. They're pouring their time and resources into it and their money. We don't get paid for podcasts unless you're doing advertisements. So it's a labor of love most of the time. And we just really want people who are going to appreciate it and respect it. The same thing with a blog. I have been on many blog tours as a guest, and I have also hosted a blog tour that was a 31-day blog tour for a different author every single day. And I'm telling you, it was so much work, but I made so many connections and it went off without a hitch. And then when that was done and I decided to start my author promotion service, I had plenty of authors coming to me wanting me to represent them. So it's all about building relationships, no matter what industry you're in.
I assume that bloggers and podcasters are also interested in how you will bring readers or bring people to their podcast or to their blog. And, how are you going to promote some of what you do with them? Should that be part of your pitch, or is it a follow-up discussion?
It could be either. So it all depends on their personality. I have had bloggers be very snooty to me in the past, because I used to approach bloggers about getting my authors on there as guests, right? So they can be that way, especially if they have hundreds of thousands of followers. They're like, I don't have time for your piddly stuff. So it just depends on the person. That's why I say you want to research them, because you don't want to just go out there and find any blog that talks about dogs if your book is about dogs, because they might not be in alignment with the way that you would like your books perceived.
Right.
So you want to make sure about that. But yeah, you want to do your research for that to make sure that you're finding the right ones. Because again, it all comes back to personality. And you can, if you want to in the pitch, you can say, I think that I could bring value to your audience with my book, blah, blah, blah. In addition, I have this many followers on Instagram. I will be promoting it, if should you decide to collaborate with me or whatever. You can word it however you want, right? So you're welcome to mention your stats if you have a large following on social media and say, I'm very active on this platform.
Right.
I'm happy to work with you and help promote your blog as well. So just make it as much about them as possible, but keep it short and, just finish it off in a professional way. And I do have that letter, so it's already written. So that service that I offer people, I'm a guide, I'm a consultant. I don't do all of this for you. I mean, could you imagine if I had even 10 clients and I had to go research individual blogs and podcasts podcast to be able for each person, because every person has a different type of book. So it's
Mhm.
something that it's a teamwork thing. So
Right.
we as self-published authors, we get to keep all the rights for our books, but that's the trade-off is we got to put all that money and time into it ourselves, right? Unless we hire somebody. So
Some sweat equity
yeah,
goes a
yeah.
long way. And it sounds to me like a lot of the tips you're sharing are also valid tips that are going to work with other types of media as well. If you're, reaching out to someone who's writing articles, or you want to get
Mhm.
into a magazine or onto, a news program or something, that these tips are all going to cross over to those mediums as well. So let's talk a little bit about sales. Is there a direct correlation, and is there any way of quantifying how these effects can boost sales? Does it really depend?
It does really depend. I mean, sales are not the end all and be all of publishing either. It's
Mhm.
more about getting your work out there. And even authors such as Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Brene Brown and people like that have mentioned many times they don't write books to make money. They write books to establish themselves as an authority in their niche. They write books to educate people. They write books to use them as a tool to get their mission and their message out to the world. So when you focus on that, the money comes. The
Yeah,
income comes. When you focus on the impact first, the income follows. And that's with any business.
I like that. Impact first and the income will follow. It's kind of been my philosophy myself. So it's nice actually seeing it in words that explain it in such a simple way. Blogging and podcasts are essentially a way to borrow an audience. I think of it that way. Are there other ways or other things that you would also recommend that can also, kind of help with kind of borrowing someone else's audience, especially when you're a new author? There's not a lot typically, in book one, I think I had a total of 60 followers on my social media. So borrowing an audience and going to where people are already very active, it sounds like it's a genius way of being able to get some publicity. Are there other platforms, other things that you could recommend or tips that you would recommend for authors?
Absolutely. And I'm going to share a tip with all of you that's kind of philosophical. I've told my kids this growing up all the time. Kindness and generosity can open up doors for you that money, prestige, and other resources cannot sometimes. So, like I said, start with a compliment and call out the elephant in the room. Say, I'm a new author. I realize you probably have never worked with new authors. However, I feel I can add value to your blog or your podcast or whatever. You can even do this with Facebook groups. All you have to do is search the keyword on Facebook, right? Autoimmune diseases or special needs kids or whatever specific topic your books are about, children's books, anything like that, and see if you can interview with the person who hosts the group. Even if you could do a Facebook Live, some of them allow you to. Anything like that, it never hurts to ask. The answer is always no unless you do ask.
Right.
And it's not personal. We take it personal sometimes because these are our book babies. You're like, how could no one love it as much as we do? But you have to get over that. You have to have a thick skin in any business, honestly, and you have to treat it like a business. That's the biggest thing. If you don't treat it like a business, it's going to pay you like a hobby. And that's totally cool if you want it to be a hobby.
Right.
But if you want it to be a business and you're wanting it to pay you, you have to put some money and time into it. It takes time to build it, as with anything.
So would you recommend setting a certain amount of time aside each week just to pitch and to work on these types of relationships?
I would. If you could do it, I'd say an hour a day. You
That
can break it up into 15-minute increments as well. Set a timer on your phone. And that's with social media marketing. That's the biggest thing is a lot of authors don't have that marketing piece. And that's why their books don't do well. That's why they go flat. And they wonder, why can't I get any reviews? Why can't I get any book sales? Well, what are you really doing that's proactive and not just sitting back and saying, hey, I published a book. People should be flocking to me. Because we do that as
right.
authors.
Right.
We think we're just going to hit publish and,
Mhm.
oh, my book is on Amazon and people are going to find it. They're not. It doesn't work that way.
I am a foreigner. So when you said you guys like me, English does not apply to me at all. Yet I did write a book and I'm struggling to find my persona. Why did I write the book? It kind of fell on a page. So in this instance, I don't really think you can tell about everybody. So I would be actually interested if you personally would consider, now I'm coming as a part of April's group, I have an entry, but if I would contact you, just from outside, would you even look
So,
at my book?
okay. So do you only have one book, one children's book published?
Right now, yes.
Okay, what is your
I
book
do
about?
have Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis?
Metamorphosis presented as a journey story. Little funny caterpillar travels and happens to turn into a butterfly and
Okay.
in the process.
Butterflies have been my thing since I can remember. They were part of all my logos for my childcare business and everything. So that's the type of book that I would love to see. But what was your mission in writing that book? Was it to speak to the children, or was it to speak to the parents to teach a message and a lesson to the children? See, there's two different types of children's books, if you ask me. Some you have to have the parent in mind, sort of like, when they make the movie Shrek and you go take your kids to it and they're young, they're like 7, 8, whatever. And you're like, wait a minute, that was a little bit of adult content. And so what I've heard is that some people nowadays write children's books with the adults in mind who are reading it. Whereas I always wrote children's books with the children in mind, that the adult needed to become a magical person who brought this story to life for the child. It's not for the grown up to be able to get through a children's book when they're tired and they just want to get a kid to go to bed. So that's something you got to think about.
April Lee is asking, how do you record podcasts? Are you using apps like Zoom and things like that? Anything you can provide a little bit of peek behind the curtain for those that might be interested in doing one themselves?
Sure. So there are lots of ways that you can do it, but I like to research things before I just jump into it. So I chose Audacity. It's free. You can download it to your laptop. You do want to do it on a laptop, by the way. If you do it on a mobile phone, you're going to have background noise and things like that. You can't edit it as easily and flawlessly as you can on a laptop, like if I'm recording my solo shows. But for my interviews, to be honest, so far I've used Zoom because it's so easy, like user friendly. But sometimes, for some reason, when I do these 2-person interviews, on their end, there is some kind of robotic metallic sound that I have to go in and edit out almost every time. And it's usually when they don't have headphones in. So that makes a difference. And sometimes they're like, oh, well, I don't have headphones. And I'm thinking, well, I sent you an email to let you know what we needed, and there's a reason that you need those headphones, and it's for things like that. So it does help. There is also StreamYard. There are just different ones that you can use. And what I do mostly so far is I would record it as a Zoom call, and then I would download it to my laptop, and then I would just take the audio file only. So Zoom gives you the 3 different files. Take the audio version and put it into iTunes for free and turn it into an MP3, and then put it in Audacity and you can edit it. Audacity does not allow MP4 files. So they only allow MP3. So that was something I had to research, and it's just something new. As you said, podcasts have become very popular. So
Laura's asking, what's the best tip on what not to do? Laura, do you mean during interviews?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't specific. I meant for interviews and or interacting with new people that you want to potentially work with in the future. Either getting on their blog, getting an interview for them mentioning you on Instagram, they're featuring you on their Facebook, something, any type of media outlet. What's one thing that you would not recommend authors or anybody to do, and not including, can you do this for me? Like, what's a bigger thing that people do that is like unwritten, unacceptable rule?
that's probably the biggest one, is expecting them that, hey, just because you're a podcaster, just because you're a blogger, you probably do want to check out my book, and you probably, would want to review it or whatever. And especially if I'm giving you a free copy of it. I know I went through a phase of that. I was like, look, I'm giving you a free book here. There's, as authors, sometimes we feel like that. You owe me. You should appreciate that I'm giving you a free book. But I mean, I don't know. I guess
Maybe a big mistake that you went through that you want to share?
Biggest thing was making it about me instead of giving them a compliment first and building them up and establishing them as, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I ran into your blog, that I found it and you're amazing. And I love the work you're doing. It's so in alignment with what I'm doing. And really, too many times I've experienced, and I've done it myself, of starting everything out with I wrote this book. I thought you might find value in it, and things like that. So you just want to watch the word I, because it should be about them and what they've accomplished and how you can complement that. That's really what it's about. What you can do, really, I call them touch points. Touch points are the key to everything in marketing. Okay. So you want to go follow their blog, comment in their social media pages, right? Comment on their stuff, get your name out there. And if they're a good blogger, if they're a professional blogger or a professional marketer, they're going to be grateful for that, especially if you say something genuine and heartfelt, not just, oh, great post, and oh, I really liked this, or anything like that. You want to say, I really liked how you broke down this topic and made it so simple for anybody to understand. Really dig in there. We're writers. And so that's going to get your name in front of them. And if you're on their blog and you're following their Instagram, you're like, hey, I'm following you on Instagram. I really enjoy your blog. Where else can I connect with you? That kind of thing. Make it about them. And then as you're following them, then one day you reach out and they're like, wait a minute, don't I know you? Aren't you the one that said this on my social media page or my blog? Oh, it's great to connect with you. Sure, let's talk. What can I do for you?
Talk a little bit about your program, Traci. Get ready to blast your book. And also, how these authors here or watching this back in replay can take advantage of this program with you.
Sure, thank you. So you can go to my website, tracysanders.com, and I have a tab on there called services. And you can check out my services. And I've kind of changed them around a little bit because in the beginning I did create this Blast Your Book program, and I can do this full program. It's like an 8-week program for people as a package deal. But it has a lot of pieces. There are a lot of cogs in this wheel. So you've got to help them finish writing the book, and you've got to guide them in that. And then you've got to guide them to finding the right editor, and that the cost for this program is included with, the editing costs and everything. So I find them an editor, and I find them someone to design their cover, make sure that it's professional looking, make sure the blurb is there. So I kind of guide them in all those things, because the blurb, cover, editing, and marketing, those are your 4 keys to making your book marketable, to make it sell, to get it out there and launch it rather than just publish it. And so what I did was I actually found out that not all authors need the whole program. Some of them have already had their books edited, but I am taking one person through it right now. And this is a brand new program, by the way. It's just a compilation of things I've done in the past as a piece rate type of services. So I am taking one client right now through the process. So we've already gotten her book cover designed and everything. Her editing process has been slowed because she has to go through compliance because she's a financial advisor. So it's been in compliance for like a month. And so things like that, when I say you can launch a book in 8 weeks or less, that's if you have all the pieces in place and everything goes smoothly. It can take longer. And I know that you can launch a book in 2 weeks if you want, but I really believe 8 weeks is a good timeline to be able to build your presence on social media, get people excited, get your launch team put in place. So in this program, I give you those request letters for podcasters to know exactly what to say to them. And you just send them to the ones that you find that are in alignment with your brand. So you've got the words of what to say to them, and then the bloggers as well. So you've got those 2 resources. I also give you a list of places to promote your book for free, what to be doing on social media every single day. So it's by day and by week. And then it tells you like the 3 things to focus on for that week, just to kind of summarize it. But then I also broke these services down on my website to where if you're just needing writing services and you want to wait for the other 2 portions, the other 2 phases, because I personally believe it's the build phase. So it's build your book, and that's the foundation. You want to get your title, your subtitle if it's nonfiction, finish your book. You got to do that first, and you got to build a solid foundation. And sometimes that starts with brainstorming, right? Even the very beginning process of what do I want my characters' names to be? The cool thing about this program is I show you how to incorporate or how to involve your social media followers and your people on social media in the process all along the way from the very beginning. Those touch points are there to where they're seeing your stuff. It's not just buy my book. Hey, my book is coming out. Hey, don't forget to check out my book. Hey, do you want to review my book? Do you want to be on my review team? It's not that. It's just little pieces that you're dropping to them saying, hey, this is the process I'm letting you in on. What do you think I should name my character? Do you think it should be a teddy bear or a dog? It's things like that. And it's not saying that they're going to be the final say in your book. It's letting them know, hey, I'm working on something exciting. I want to bring you along in this journey, because I can't tell you how many moms have told me they wish they could write a children's book, or how many women have told me they wish they could write, a nonfiction memoir or something like that. But most people don't. So I commend you ladies, all you people in here, gentlemen too, for taking that step and making it happen, because so many people don't. They just talk about doing it. And so I guide them through the process. I guide you through the process of all that stuff, because it's a lot. There are a lot of pieces to this process. So you've got the social media portion, you've got the editing, you've got the technical stuff, you got to get it formatted. So all of this is in there. And then of course the marketing and your launch team, and even what to do after you've launched, because you don't want it to fall flat. I even give you tips on what to do after it has launched so that you can keep the momentum going. But the 3 phases are build your book, polish your book, which is the cover design and the editing, and then blast your book, which is the marketing and launching it. So those are divided into 3 different programs. And of course I give you a discount if you need all 3, but I wanted to give them as peace services as well.
Well, this has been really helpful. I appreciate you coming to visit us, and I look forward to going and visiting your group as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know I've learned a few things with regard to even just pitching and making sure that you're aligning. I'm starting to work on that with my new book. So thank you for the tips. That's going to help me a lot.
Absolutely. And with children's books, you can even use, stock photos or illustrations that you're working on or something and post those on social media
Right.
and just ask for input. Anytime you ask for input, you're going to get a lot more engagement on your posts. And that's going to put your name out there to more people. If anybody wants to check out my group, Women Writing and Publishing. So again, it's for women only. You're welcome to hop in there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Traci.
Thank you all for your time
Good
tonight. I
evening.
appreciate it. And you're
Thank
welcome to
you.
connect with me on Facebook if you want and ask me questions.
Yes, she is a wealth of information and one of the most supportive other female that I've run into in the self-publishing. I think this will be a nice collaboration as we move forward. I highly recommend reaching out to her and, becoming involved with others who are also focused on teaching and learning on the self-publishing process. We can never have enough of kindred spirits to help us on our journey. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you all.
Thanks.